Hello, Toolkit Masters, and welcome to Q&A Thursday. It is great to be here. You know Q&A Thursday is my favourite day of the week, right? I say that all the time. But welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here. We've got some exciting stuff that we're going to share with you today. And I've got a bit of news as well. So stick to the end if you can, because I've got some news to share about a new tool that's going to be uploaded into the Unlocking portal. So that's really exciting stuff. Anyway, but before we start, let's just make sure that everyone can see and hear me. So if you can just say hi, yes, see and hear you, all those sorts of things, that would be fabulous, so that I know that I'm being seen and heard. So hi everyone, just stick in there. Yes, you can see and hear me. Hi Renee, hi Sam, fantastic. All right, so I can be seen and heard. Excellent. So we'll probably have a few more people joining us at some point in the very near future, and that's okay. They can attend when they are ready. Okay, so we've got some really great stuff to share. And for those that are just joining us, this is the way that it's going to work. So if you have a question, hey, Ego, fantastic to see you here, guys. Wow, you guys are keen. First week in and you're here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Fantastic to know that you're all there. Okay, so how this works is I usually have a topic each week that I like to share with you guys. The topic today is going to be a really exciting one. It's around the ABCs of how we communicate. All right. Hi, Niall. Hi, Candice. Fantastic. All right. Great to see you here, guys. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to do about the ABCs when you disagree. So it's really, really important when, you know, communication is key when we're leading a team of people, right? That's the key thing that we need to get right. Whether that be with our team members, with our peers, with our manager, it doesn't really matter. Communication is the key. And how we, you know, as we move on and things get emotive sometimes, how do we have a constructive discussion about something when we disagree? So I came across this quite recently when I was in Perth with a team of people not long ago, and they were getting some new stuff built in their building. And there was some real argy-bargy with regards to the permanent team members that were there and the construction crew that were coming in on a daily basis to build this new piece of the building or whatever it was. And there was some real argy-bargy with discussions with walls being moved and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I went down and I helped them with this, and it really allowed them to step back and think about how they can have a constructive discussion when you disagree on something to try and get a positive outcome. So it's a bit tricky, but it all depends on the language that you use and the messaging that you do. So we're going to have a chat about that today. And I'm really excited to have you here. Ego Pharmaceuticals has joined us. Yay. We had the operations team since May last year. Now we've got the commercial team. Really, really excited to have you guys here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. If you stay till the end, we've got a new tool that we're going to be putting into the Unlocking portal. So I'd love to tell you about that. And also the other thing I want to say is if anybody has any questions at all at any time during this, then please just write them in the messages and I will answer them for you straight away. So if you've got any questions about anything, whether that be your team, your peers, your manager, your role, anything, then feel free to type in a message here. If it's a question that you want to keep to yourself but you want to share it with just me, then please use the ask@teamleadertoolkit.com email. Shove it in there, send it to me, and I'll get back to you within a couple of hours with an answer, and then ask your permission whether I can share it on the webinar. And if I can't, that's fine too. So, all right, okay. So let's keep going. So, what happens when we have an argument with someone at work, or even at home for that matter? Right? What usually happens is there's two ends of the spectrum. We should usually either go to silence, where we withdraw and avoid and mask what we really feel, or we go to violence, which is that's where we want to control the situation. We start labeling or even attacking people verbally. So silence or violence are the two ends of the spectrum. And usually you have a preference to go either one way or the other when you're feeling yourself under duress. And, you know, everybody is guilty of having a preferred option. Everybody is guilty of having a preferred option. So some use both. Some use at work, they go to silence, and then at home they go to violence, or at home they go to silence and at work they go to violence. You know, it depends on who they're talking to. Sometimes they would switch between two. But usually we have a preferred preference of whether we withdraw, be silent, avoid, or whether we try and get control of the situation, start labeling people and start attacking people verbally, the aggressive side. So what we want to do is those two in the writings that started all this ABCs when you disagree, each of those ends of the spectrum is called the fool's choice. Okay, so that is neither of those are going to allow you to have a constructive conversation. So what I'm going to show you today is the tools that you can use when you're having a disagreement with someone at work or at home. I've been trying it on my teenagers. I must say to you, to be perfectly honest and upfront, it's still a conscience competence for me with my teenagers, but we will get there. So it's worth having a look at the ABCs when you disagree, and we're going to be talking about that today and not using the fool's choice. But before we start, I want to give you a little video, a little snippet of a video that I think is really quite funny. So I'm going to play this video. It only goes for 1 minute and 30 seconds or something. So let's just have a watch of this, of somebody who is, and think of the spectrum of whether they go to silence or violence, and you tell me which one that you think they go to. Let's see if this works.
Hi. Polly! Manuel! Polly, what have you done with my hotel? Polly, what have you done to my hotel?
What?
Look!
Oh, it's nice. I like it there.
Look!
You're hurting me.
What have you done with my dining room door? Where is it?
I don't know.
Why don't you know? I left you in charge.
Well, I fell asleep.
You fell asleep?
Well, it's not my fault.
You fell asleep and it's not your fault?
He forgot to wake me.
Who forgot to wake you?
It is my fault.
Manuel! I knew it, Manuel!
Don't blame him.
Why not?
It's not really his fault.
Well, whose fault is it then, you clothy-eared bint, Dennis Comptons?
Well, you hired O'Reilly, didn't you? I mean, we all warned you. Who else would do something like this?
I beg your pardon?
You hired O'Reilly.
Oh, I see. It's my fault, is it? Oh, of course. There I was thinking it was your fault because you've been left in charge, or Manuel's fault for not waking you, and all the time it was my fault. Oh, it's so obvious now. I've seen the light. Well, I must be punished then, mustn't I? You're a naughty boy, Forty. Don't do it. What am I going to do? She's going to be back at lunchtime.
Now, wait.
Look, I'm a dead man. Do you realise?
Easy.
You're dead too. We're all dead.
Don't panic.
What else is there to do?
We will call O'Reilly. He made this mess. He can come in and clear it up. Oh, just pull yourself together. Come on.
Again! Harder! Right, I'll call O'Reilly. What is this? I mean, what is this doing? What is going on here?
Your wife ordered it. Call O'Reilly.
That golfing puffer away from us!
Call O'Reilly.
What?
Shall I call him?
No, I'll do it. I'll call him. You go and see if the roof's still on.
All right. So thank you for bearing with me on that one. I just thought it was Hi, Flick from Ego. How you going? We've got a few ego people with us today. It's brilliant to see. So how did you think of that video? What spectrum was it? Was it the silence where he was withdrawn and avoiding and sticking his head in the sand? Or was he straight to violence, trying to control the situation, trying to get over the top and just going way up the other end of the spectrum? Yeah, I hazard a guess to say he went straight to violence. And, you know, that character was supposed to. That was the role he was playing. But so often I see, and that's an exaggerated version, obviously, but it was just a bit of a laugh for a Thursday morning or Thursday lunchtime. But as you can see, it's so easy for people to move into one end of the spectrum or the other. So what I'm trying to get you guys to think about is, how can we have a constructive discussion even though you're going to disagree? So let's have a look at what we can do. So I'm going to share some slides with you, so bear with me. So we'll just start these and then we'll start having a conversation about it. Okay. So as you know, we've talked about communication, how important it is, not only with our own teams, but also with your peers and your manager and all those sorts of things as well. So really, really important to have there. So topic of the week, the ABCs when you disagree. So you can communicate more effectively and reduce conflict if you look at your ABCs. And the ABCs stand for agree, build, and compare. So agree is the A, build is the B, and C is the compare. So if you start off with what you disagree with, you are immediately creating conflict. Okay, so instead you can stay connected and build a rapport with someone while you're still exploring the disagreement by using this method, and I'll show you how to do it in a minute. So just for you to know, this is all out of a really, really interesting book called Crucial Conversations, The Tools for Talking When the Stakes Are High by Kerry Patterson. And it's just a small component of that book. But I made it into a workshop some years ago and went and delivered it to about 38 department level managers. And they really found this really resonated with a lot of them. So then I went and did it to their team leaders as well. So agree, build, and compare. So we'll move on to what that means. Okay, so agree. So what I mean here is, usually when you're having a fight or an argument with somebody, you're disagreeing over about 5 to 10% of the facts of the story. Right, so if you look at the story as a whole, if you look at the holistic thing, it's usually only 5 to 10% of that you're actually disagreeing on. So find the things that you agree on first. So for example, when I was talking about this team that were having some arguments with the construction people, there was a lot of conversations about a wall that had to be moved 30 centimetres, and there was some huge disagreements about it. And what they were disagreeing about was whereabouts that wall had to be moved. They agreed on it had to be moved for the structural soundness of the building. They agreed upon how it was going to be built and what materials it was going to be made out of. They agreed upon a time frame of when it had to be done. The only thing they didn't agree about was the amount that it had to move. So if you could start that conversation off with the things that you agree first, so you could start by, okay, Jeff, the construction worker, we both know that this wall needs to be moved. We agree on that. We also agree that it needs to be done by the end of the month. And we also agree that we're going to use, this is going to be a solid brick wall because it actually is load bearing. So those things we agree on. And then you can start talking about something else. So if you start off with what you agree on, then you can start moving into a more constructive conversation. So one takeaway from this, don't start with what you disagree on. I'm not having that wall move. It's not happening. Don't start with that. What you start with is the things that you do agree on, okay? And then you'll find that there is quite a lot that you have in common and that you agree on. So then you can... And sometimes you can, as you start to go, yes, I agree that, yes, I agree that, yes, I agree that, the only thing that I feel that we're disagreeing in is this, the other person might go, oh, no, I agree with you on that bit. And then you go, oh, wow, okay, that's great, let's move on. So it's really good to get those things out there at the beginning. So agree first. Agree on the facts and the stories that you share. All right. What's the next one? B, build. So what do we mean by that? So if you've agreed what's been said, but there might be information that's incomplete, so you can build on that. So if the construction worker says, yes, the wall does have to be moved for structural soundness. Yes, we are going to make it out of brick. Yes, it has to be done by the end of the month. And, you know, my boss has said it's got to be done here and it's got to be 35 centimetres. And you can go with, you're going to build on that because he's missed out some important points, and you can say, yes, absolutely, you're right with those 3 points. And in addition to that, we've got some paperwork here that says it only has to be 25 centimetres. So we've got some actual structural drawings from the engineer that states 25. So that's a piece of information they've left, but you're not going to start out with, no, you're wrong, this is what we have to do. You're going to agree with them first on the things that you agree. And then instead of saying the words, and you never say these words in a disagreement, you never say the word but. What you're going to replace it with is in addition to, or, and also, so you're building on something. So how that conversation will go, and I'll state it again. Yes, Mr. Construction Worker, whatever his name is. I can't remember what I said his name was. Yes, so, yeah, we absolutely agree that it needs to be moved by the end of the month. Yes, we agree what it's going to be made out of. Yes, we absolutely agree that, yeah, it has to be moved for the structural soundness of the building. And in addition to that, we've got some really good structural drawings that came from the engineer that said that the movement needs to be 25 centimetres. So then what you're doing is adding in some more information that he's missed out. So build on what they've said without using the word but, and in replacing it with in addition or and also. As soon as someone hears the word but, they switch off and go back to one of those ends of the spectrum. So even think about that in your home world too, when you're with your partner or your kids or whatever. If you're trying to build on something they're already saying, don't say the word but, because it always brings a connotation that drives people to each end of that spectrum, whether they go to silence or violence, and they don't feel heard. So just a simple changing of the language can make a world of difference. Okay, so what's the C? So the C is what we're talking about is comparing. So instead of, so if somebody, and if the builder comes back and says, yeah, but my boss said it has to be 35 centimetres because that's what, you know, he's got a background in engineering as well, and that's what he stated, and that's what he's paid me to do. Okay. So this is where you compare. You go, okay, I understand that. I actually look at it differently to that. We've got to go by what the engineer has given us, the structural engineer has given us in paperwork, because that's actually been what's been, you know, passed through council. So as much as I think your boss has got a great background, we have to go by these that have been actually approved by council or whatever that may be. So this is where you differ. You differ to the conversation. So you're going to hear the other person, and then you're going to say, okay, I look at it differently to that. The way I see it is blah, 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 blah. So you're actually comparing with the other person. So you're not suggesting they're wrong. You're not going, hey, you're wrong, you're an idiot. You're actually going to say, okay, all right, so I see it slightly differently to that. Let me share with you how I see it. Bang, 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 bang. Because you're not blaming or labelling or attacking verbally then. You're just comparing, which is a whole different mindset for the other person to perceive. So does everyone understand that? The ABCs. It's really hard to remember to do. It takes some practice. You're not going to get it right the first 10 times, believe you me. But it is worth having a think about to be able to alleviate some of that tension that you might have in the workplace with that one particular person that you're butting heads with. Or it might alleviate some tension that you might be having with some of your teenagers at home or your spouse or friends or whatever. If you can think of the ABCs when you're getting to that point where you're disagreeing on something, then it is only going to bring out the best result of that conversation. So really worth having a think about. So if we just have a quick review, so what we're going to do, the key takeaways here is make sure that when you start off that conversation, you agree on the facts you share. You don't start off with what you disagree on. we agree about this particular part, and we agree about that, and I absolutely agree with you about that particular part. So you're going to state the things that you agree on, because honestly, out of that whole conversation, there's probably only 5 or 10% that you disagree on. So let's highlight the things that you agree. The second thing, you're going to build on the important points. So you're going to say, yes, yes, I agree with that. And furthermore, in addition to that, we're going to do, this is the other thing that we're going to do. So they might leave out some important information, like the builder did with regards to, the structural engineer's drawings. He left that out because he was just focused on what his boss told him to do. So you're going to build on that by saying, yes, we agree on that. Yes, we agree on that. Yes, we agree on that. And in addition to that, we've got these drawings that have been actually passed by council. So I'm just using that as an example. And then finally, you're going to compare. So if what you are still disagreeing on is still the case, you openly listen to what the other person's got to say. Yeah, but my boss has got this background, and say, you know what, I look at it differently to that. This is where you're going to compare. You're not going to tell them they're wrong. You're just going to say, I look at it differently than that. What I see is, we've got to go by these because these are on the drawings. They've actually been, whatever. So you're not going to state anybody is wrong, and you're not going to attack or verbally label people. And you're not going to focus on what you disagree on. You're going to focus on what you agree on. So I hope that is something that you think that is worthwhile. And believe you me, as I said, for the first 10 times, you're going to struggle with it. But if you can just keep practicing, remember, it's that thing like grandma's jumper. It's one of those things that doesn't sit naturally to you right now. But if you can give it a go, you are going to be the best negotiator in war and peace that you'll ever know. So just have a crack at it and see how you go. All right. So without further ado, is there any questions on what we've just shared with regards to the ABCs when you disagree, first off? And while you're thinking about that, and please feel free to just write them in the messages there if you've got anything that you want to ask, share, any insights, any questions. So please feel free to just jot them in there. While you're doing that, I just wanted to share with you some news. So I finally got back from our graphic designers the one-on-one template, and it's looking schmick. Now, yes, I've been fighting and pushing back not to do this because I felt like it was something that you guys had to do on an individual basis. There's many companies out there that already have templates for one-on-ones. So this is really, if you don't have anything, then download it and have a crack, because one-on-ones with your team members is so instrumental in ensuring that you're building your high-performance team. So it's going to be there. For those that don't have one, it's going to be there. For those that do have one, but it's not working real flash, then why don't you download this one and just pull bits and pieces out of it? So I'm not precious about it. It's there for you to use however it's going to deem necessary for you. So have a crack at it and see how you go. That's going to be uploaded by the end of this week. So just check in your tool suite, which is down near the bottom. If you scroll down to the unlocking portal, I think it's second from the bottom, or the bottom is your tool suite. There'll be number 19 and it'll be one-on-one template. I think there's 18 there currently, around that anyway. So have a look for that. Really exciting stuff. Some people have been screaming out for it and I have been pushing back, but I thought, no, I need to get it out there. Excuse me. Okay. So that's really exciting news. The other news I've got is we've got a really great interview set up for one of our experts. So we've got an expert webinar coming up that we're going to share with you. So bear with us on that one. We'll be shooting it at the end of this month, and then it's got to go to the editing team. So, it might be a little while, but we will get it up and I'll give you a heads up when that's coming. So really, really exciting stuff. Okay, so without further ado, has anyone got any questions for me? And while you're thinking about them, I might get you back and stop this slide presentation. So there we are. I'll get back on chat. Okay, has anyone got any questions for me? While you're thinking about it, just a couple of reminders. Number one, remember, if you've got the opportunity, especially our new Ego friends that have joined us, welcome to Toolkit Masters webinar. This is Q&A Thursday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We'd love to see you here every week. You've got now option to get onto the closed Facebook site too and get that 24/7 help. There's also bits and pieces that go up there pretty much daily that you can download, watch, see, read, all sorts of things. Also, remember in your unlocking portal that if you miss any webinars, you can watch the replay. So they'll be available to you whenever you might miss one because you're on leave or you might be doing a different shift or whatever. So that's just an option for you as well. So, yeah, okay. So no questions. Is everyone all good? Everyone? I hesitate to turn off too early because I've turned off early before and a question's just come up as I've pressed the end button. So I don't want to do that again. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like... Okay, great question, Renee. So Renee's asked if the conversation begins in an aggressive tone or takes an aggressive tone, what is the best way to bring the conversation back in line? Okay, so there's a couple of things that you can do there, Renee, and that's a great question. Number one, it depends on the amount of aggression that's in there. If you think you can pull it back by going straight back to the agree, so you can almost put the fire out by going back to, okay, John, I'll tell you what, I do agree that this is happening and I do agree that this is happening and I do agree that this is happening, and try and start from the beginning again, because that usually puts people's wind out of their sails if you're agreeing on stuff that they're saying. So try that. If it's got to the point where it's quite aggressive and you're almost feeling unsafe, then your best bet at that stage is to say, do you know what? I think this is a conversation that we absolutely need to have, but I'd love to go and grab a coffee. Perhaps you'd like to go and grab a coffee too. We'll give it 10, 15 minutes and then we'll come back. Or worst case, we'll convene again tomorrow and give people a bit of a break to sort of calm down. Because if they're at that really heightened emotive state, then really difficult to bring them down and make it a safe, constructive conversation. They will be on the back foot and they will feel like they need to defend. So my best bet to you is, if you feel like you can pull it back, go straight to the beginning to agree on things, bring the wind out of their sails. Or the second thing that you can do is actually delay that conversation and allow time in between, because if people are getting to the point where they're quite emotive, then they need that time to sort of breathe in and out. So I hope that helps, Renee. Great question. Okay. All right. Any other questions? No worries. All right. So quick ones then. The new tool will be uploaded by the end of the week. Q&A Thursday will be on next week. Don't miss it. It's going to be a good one. We've already got a topic picked out, unless someone does a doozy question during the week. If you do have a doozy question to ask of me, don't hesitate to feel free. Just go ask@teamleadertoolkit.com. Shove it there at me. The team and I will get together, give you a response, give you some downloadable tools if that helps, send it back to you, and then we will ask your permission if we can share on the webinar as well. Because if you've got the question, odds are other people will have the same question. So make sure you do that. And without further ado, thank you guys for joining me. Have a fantastic rest of the week. See you next Thursday. Hopefully speak to you beforehand. Get on the Facebook site and we will catch up again soon. All right. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Bye for now.